Hey folks, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to The Human Show. My name is Trish, and I am a mom, a certified adult chair life coach, and an evolving human like you. And my intention is to raise the vibration of the planet by helping to expand the emotional intelligence of as many people as possible. I am here to hold space and share wisdom in support of your personal evolution. I know the path can sometimes be dark, so let's carry a light for each other and find our way. Here we go. Hey folks, thanks for being here. I wanted to wrap up the Woman Emerged series by sharing my own story of adversity and reflecting on the incredible conversations we've had over the past month. Now, I shared my anxiety adventure in the first episode of this podcast, and that was definitely a story of adversity. And since I already went through that, I figured today I'd talk about my divorce, which happened way back when I was 28. And you know what's interesting is when I really reflected on this time, I realized I was basically the poster child for what not to do when you're going through a divorce. You know, the unhealthy way to handle it. I just didn't know what I didn't know back then. And, you know, for this series, I had prepared some talking points for my guests. So I figured I would try to answer a few of those about my experience. So the first talking point was to, talk about your experience moving through the range of emotions that comes with this transition. And for me, it was distraction and avoidance. That's how I handled my emotions. Any distraction I could find, because that's what I knew to do. I thought if I kept moving, if I kept going out, if I kept dating, the feelings wouldn't catch up to me. And I'm here to tell you, they will. It all catches up sooner or later. And usually when you're not expecting it. Another talking point was, how did self-care and boundaries and identity shift? Now, self-care, I think if you asked me back then what self-care was, I probably would have said getting a massage, or getting a facial, or having a spa day, something like that. And boundaries were pretty much foreign to me. I don't know that I even had any back then, because I didn't even really understand them. And identity, well, I had completely lost my identity in my relationship and couldn't even make my own decisions. So that's how I would have answered those questions. So here's my divorce story, the Cliff Notes version. So we'd been together for 6 years and married for 4. It was most of my 20s. And the split was mutual. And, deep down I knew we weren't a good fit anymore. But on the surface level, I was terrified of the unknown. I mean, there's that saying about the devil you know. Well, even though I knew it wasn't a good situation, at least I knew what to expect. And so I stayed, I tried to stay. I tried to keep it going even after we split. I was trying to hang on because the unknown is scary, right? And so many of us stay in unhealthy situations because the unknown is really scary. So we owned a house together, and I just walked away from it. We had about $20,000 in credit card debt in my name, and I didn't ask for a dime because I thought it was fair. And I remember I went to an attorney for a consultation, and he started talking about assets and splitting equity and how I should get half from the profit of the previous house. And, I should get half the profit from the sale of the current house, which I don't even think there would have been any because we hadn't been there very long. So he started talking about all these financial things that I should be asking for. And I panicked because it felt like personal. It just felt like it felt like a personal attack to ask for this stuff. So I was like, no, thank you. And I did not pursue a legal route. And I took on the credit card debt because I felt like, well, I'm walking away. I get to live with my mom rent free. So I'm getting off easy. I shouldn't ask for anything. And financially, it all worked out. I figured it out, and everything worked out in the end. Not easily for either of us, but we made it through. And I think this happens a lot in divorce. Someone feels guilty. Someone feels like they don't deserve as much as the other person, right? And they kind of short themselves. And that's why I think it is really important to get an attorney or someone impartial. I think it's really important to have guidance from someone who's not personally invested in the situation. Anyway, so I moved in with my mom, and that was hard. I mean, it was a really strange shift after 6 years in the same routine, and that routine was gone. So now I'm living in a new place, which is smaller, and I'm sharing it with my mom. I needed to find a job. Just my life was completely shaken up. And my mom, helped me get a job. And my younger brother was still living at my mom's at the time too. And he was just getting into bike riding. He's like a really avid bike rider now and takes all these like super long, amazing trips. And then he was sort of getting into it. So I started riding with him like a few times a week. And then we were going out to bars sometimes. And, I was just like doing, just trying to stay busy. And I would go out with friends, like friends I had before the relationship, because, that all changed too. Like the mutual friends we had, I sort of lost because they weren't really mine in the beginning and that whole thing. But, longtime friends that I had, I really leaned on them and was just hanging out with them as much as I could, and we were going out to bars like at least once a week. Like I was broke as a joke, but somehow found money for happy hour drinks. I guess happy hour is probably all I could afford at that time. Not regular hours, just the happy hours. We used to go to this bar called Bump in Philly. I don't know what it is now. I don't even know if it's still there, if it's a different place, I don't know. But anybody listening from Philly, you might remember a place called Bump back in the day. It was a cool spot. Well, they had $2 martinis for happy hour. So that's what we did, at least once a week. Anyway, I also started going to church, and in addition to just going out with my friends drinking, I started dating. And I was dating like it was a competition, like trying to, I don't know, date as many people as I could because I thought that meant I was moving on. I was like, look at me doing all these things. I'm moving on. I'm like bike riding and I'm socializing and I get a new job and I'm like dating. Like I am moving on, Oh, and looking back at that 28-year-old girl, I say with so much love that she was clueless because all of that stuff, all those things were just distractions. They were just avoidance tactics. I was trying to avoid how I really felt about the breakup. Trying not to think about what my ex might be doing and just avoidance every damn day for probably years. And this is because I didn't know how to feel my feelings. I had very little self-awareness, very low emotional intelligence, and like I mentioned before, probably no boundaries. And self-love, I don't know. I probably would have rolled my eyes at that concept back then. As I said, I was the poster child for unhealthy breakup processing. So after years went by, if I saw my ex, and this happened, if I saw my ex in public, like my whole body would tense up. And I mean, this is like a flashing light saying, you're not over it. You're not actually moved on. And not in the sense that I wanted to rekindle the relationship, but just in the sense that I had never actually processed the emotions I was experiencing at the time. Like I didn't let myself. I pushed them down and like buried them in new things, like new job, new friends, new dates, like I buried and buried and buried my emotions. So being triggered was my reminder that you never processed all that stuff. It's still buried somewhere inside of you. So here's the thing. If you don't process those emotions that you're holding from a breakup or any challenging transition, they're going to stay with you. They don't just go away. No matter how far and fast you run, they are with you. They are with you every step of the way. You don't always see them, but they are there. And like I said before, they will show up when you least expect it. And if you're someone who had a breakup and you feel like you've moved on and you're in a better relationship and everything's great, if you see your ex, or maybe it's not even a person, maybe it's on social media, and you are triggered, then there's still some unresolved stuff inside of you. Just a little heads up there, something inside you needs attention if you're still getting triggered. So, like I said, if you don't process this stuff, it's going to come up when you're least expecting it. And then you have no control over it. So that's why I encourage everyone to feel your feelings, to let your emotions come through. Because then you get to control when and where and how that happens. When you suppress them, they're going to come out when you don't expect them. And it might be ugly. So anyway, let me touch on identity, because this was a big one for me. I had completely lost my identity in that relationship. I had just become a partner in a relationship. And, it wasn't on a conscious level. Obviously, I didn't know at the time that's what happened. But looking back, it is very, very clear. I had gotten so used to deferring decision making. Like, I didn't make any of my own decisions. It was just, it became easier. I was always someone who was uncomfortable saying what I needed, saying what I wanted, speaking up for myself. This was always really, really hard. So when I got in a relationship with who did all of these things very easily, it was kind of like I was subconsciously like, oh, cool. I don't have to do it. I can just sit back and go deeper into my shell. So, so then when I was on my own, like daily decisions became so difficult. What should I wear? What should I eat today? Where should I apply for a job? Should I take this job? Every decision was stressful for me because I became so dependent on someone else making my decisions. Anyway, that took some time, a long time really, because like I said, speaking up for myself, asking for what I wanted and needed, those are things that were challenges for me most of my life, long before I got into this relationship. I brought that stuff with me to every relationship. So then when I left, I still had it. So those are things that took me some time to work on. And when I started learning about myself, finally, about my emotions and my patterns and like childhood wounding and triggers, then I was able to look back at all these things that I did as avoidance tactics. I was able to see them as avoidance and distractions. And I'm so thankful to be where I am now. I have a much higher level of self-awareness and emotional intelligence. I have healthier boundaries. I'm comfortable saying no. And these were all like completely foreign concepts to me when I was 28. So I have come a long way. And I look back at that 28-year-old with so much love and compassion. And she did what she needed to do. And she walked the path that eventually got me where I am now. And, that's why I love helping women who are going through a divorce or have gone through a divorce and they're struggling emotionally, because it's what I needed back then. Like, I needed this support. I needed this guidance. I needed help with boundaries and identity and self-care and self-awareness. Like, I needed all of this. I didn't know I needed it, but now that I can look back, hindsight is 20/20, and it's all so very clear to me now. And it doesn't have to take years to heal. It doesn't have to take years to overcome the pain. And I want to help women get through it more quickly. So anyway, that was a sidebar. And all this stuff that I'm talking about, like boundaries and, self-care, self-awareness, identity, all this stuff, like, it's not just about divorce. These challenges come with any transition. With any transition, there's grief, there's identity shifts, there's boundary reevaluation. I mean, the same emotional challenges show up whether you're dealing with divorce, loss of a loved one, job loss, becoming a parent, empty nest syndrome, like different transitions, but same underlying emotional work. So anyway, that brings me back to reflecting on the conversations that I had in this series, because they weren't all about divorce. They were about different transitions, different life challenges. And when I reflect on the conversations with these women, the word that keeps coming to me is resilience. And I looked up the definition because I was like, I have an idea of what resilience means to me, but I want to see what definitions are out there. And, with most sources, there were a couple definitions, and one was about humans and talking about the ability to recover from or adjust to misfortune or change or a difficult situation. And then there was a definition about a material or a substance, like rubber, returning to its original shape after being bent or stretched or pressed. And I think we need a new definition or a new word that combines these definitions, because I really like the part about the substance. Because someone going through a difficult challenge, a difficult transition, can really feel like they're being bent, stretched, pressed, stressed, And by living through the experience, they're not actually returning to their original shape. They're forming into a new shape. Everyone who endures some adverse experience is different after. So I kind of like that definition about the substance and how it's bent and stretched. And so anyway, I think we need a new word. If you have one, let me know. And then I want to talk about the word emerge, because I very intentionally chose the title of this series as Woman Emerged, because the word emerge really resonated for me. And, the definitions for emerge are about coming forth into view, rising from an inferior or unfortunate state, and coming into being through evolution. And all of these I just think are so fitting for the women I talk to and any woman enduring a challenging transition. These women have risen from the depths, from the muck of these really heavy challenges, and have come into a new being through this evolution. When you talk to women who've gone through something like this, they're not the same person they were before. They've evolved, they've grown, they've become a new being. And it's really amazing and beautiful to witness. These women that I spoke with, they showed incredible bravery, resilience, endurance. I mean, some of these challenges lasted years and years. And to hear how they moved through it and emerged more authentic, more expanded, more aware, more grateful, more strong, it's just really inspiring. And, they were all grateful for their experiences, which is amazing. I mean, that awareness, that ability to look at their story and honor it and recognize how they've grown. I mean, that's huge. The courage to share their stories is remarkable. I mean, I'm honored to have been able to talk to these women and hear about their stories. And I'm so honored that they spent the time with me sharing their stories so that I can share them with you. And, sharing is so important because when we're going through something that might feel like the end of the world, it might feel like it's the hardest thing ever and like we might not recover. Hearing someone else's struggle, it really helps us feel like, okay, they got through it. I'm not the only one that's going through something hard. Like, I can do this. I'm not alone. Oh, before I forget. Who said that? 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 There's a perfect quote from Brene Brown for this series, I think, and it's, "One day you will tell your story of how you've overcome what you're going through, and it will become part of someone else's survival guide." This is just so fitting for this series. If you have a story to share, there's someone who needs to hear it. This is how we connect. This is how we build community. And when you share your story, it can be part of someone else's survival guide. We learn from each other, and that's why it's so important to share our stories. So if you listen to this series, I really hope you enjoyed the conversations. I'd love to do this again. I'd love to do another series because I know there are so many more women out there with stories like this. If you have a story of adversity you'd like to share, or you know someone who does, drop me a line. Let's chat about it. And if you haven't heard the rest of the Woman Emerged series, I highly encourage you to go back and check it out. These are really incredible women who were gracious enough to share their time and stories with me and with all of you. So I appreciate them, and I appreciate you for listening. So I will wrap it up here. And as always, you are enough, just as you are, and you are loved. Make a great day. Hey, before you go, if you enjoy The Human Show, you can help me spread the word by sharing it and leaving a review. Thank you.